Alright Hex, let's get into it. In Mortal Kombat X, Earthrealm is once again invaded by interdimensional outworlders, and of course, the only way to stop them is to fight!
You don't even think of hurting her.
There are worse things than death.
MKX is the latest in the long-running fighting series known for its uppercuts and unapologetic gore. So for those of you with a weak stomach, this is your blanket warning. You're going to see some guts.
Yes, in fact, it's only 5 seconds into the campaign before you see the inside of someone's head.
Oh, such next-gen detail, Barjo.
Yes, this is the most bone-crushing, sinew-pulling, gut-disemboweling Mortal Kombat yet.
Barjo, I'm actually impressed this game still manages to shock with its gore after all these years. But more importantly, it's an excellent fighter. It's rare that any game gets to its 10th installment, and developer Earthrealm Studios has certainly earned it.
Let's start with the story, because it has one. Shao Kahn has been defeated.
But Shao Kahn wasn't ready to lose.
Some of Earthrealm warriors are undead now, and there's a medallion which has some great power that can mean total rule over a whole dimension. Earth gets invaded again, and then the story goes back in time a bit. It's all quite hard to follow, and I admit, Hex, once Sub-Zero and Scorpion sat down to have a cup of tea, I tuned out.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
We had abandoned it long before.
Basically, what it all boils down to is the evil elder god Shinnok has been trapped, and he's trying to get out. In the end, they've done a pretty good job with the MKX storyline, considering how many characters they've put into the plot and how difficult it must be to find reasons for them to randomly start fighting.
War is not over.
All the Mortal Kombat characters are aging, and it's fun to see their older selves. Johnny Cage is a silver fox now.
Raiden told me later that I'm descended from some Mediterranean war cult.
He's also not so much of a jerk anymore, which is much less entertaining. He's got more of a heroic suave vibe now.
There's a fair bit of plot revolving around him and Sonya, his ex-wife. And Hex, I've been in love with Sonya since the first game came out when I was 12. An important time of change in a young man's life, and I love her even more now. She's just awesome. Tough, hardened by marriage as well as battle.
Never time for me and Cassie.
I had responsibility.
And she fights so well now. And Hex, I noticed they've scaled back the boob factor with the character models.
I noticed that too.
Well, except for Goro.
The overall distinctly less jiggle factor this time around. The campaign is full of larger backdrops and more detail than we've seen before in MK games, and each fight feels massive with plenty of weight behind character motivations.
The whole game is just one giant climax, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like the last fight in a Rocky film where like everything is at stake, only in this it's like every 30 seconds for 6 hours.
Shao Kahn murdered you.
Something you allowed to happen.
This is more cutscene than game, but they're so exciting that you're always engaged. It's also got some simple but surprisingly fun QuickTime events thrown in to keep things interesting.
It's just nice to have a decent campaign in a fighting game, although this is another game where the cutscenes don't look as nice as the in-game footage.
What a backwards world of games we live in now.
You're so clever.
They've obviously learned a lot from developing Injustice, their DC fighting game, which was the first fighting game in a long time, maybe ever, to have a solid story.
But let's get to the combat. This is a fast-paced fighter with a few new ideas and tweaks to the systems we know. The biggest addition is character variations.
Yes, each character has 3 of them. Some focus on trap devices and secondary hovering abilities, such as Sonya's drone, and some charge things like gauntlets for more damage.
Most characters still share their core abilities, but the variations all do play quite differently. It's a mammoth amount of strategy to learn for your guy, the character you like playing as the most. And of course, knowing all of the moves of your opponents as well.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much work must have gone into playtesting to balance them all, Barjo.
Yeah, I think fighting games are deceptively difficult to develop in general, let alone multiplying all your characters by 3.
What I like most about this variation system is that it solves that problem of characters that I really like the look and style of, but just don't enjoy fighting with. Variations mean that there's more chance players will find a style they like with a fighter they like as well.
I like how some of the enhanced moves have armor. So if you do an enhanced attack, which uses a part of the energy bar that you build up during a fight, it will go right through an opponent's incoming attack. And for the pros, there's release check options, extra controller settings, and plenty of stats to go over to learn how to craft a good combo strategy. And when you do go up against a great player, you can't help but be in awe of their skill at weaving together so many crazy abilities and combos. It's a painfully beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to lose, but at the same time, you can't help but be impressed by the sheer skill involved in a masterful defeat.
I especially love starting a Mortal Kombat game fresh with new players because you just see everyone on the sides of the screen just bobbing up and down trying to figure out the moves. Then trying to link them all together with uppercuts and sweeps and finally combos.
Oh, there's always one too many.
Yeah, there's always a second bit where you're like, they're definitely dead, man.
And of course, trying to remember complicated fatalities.
Finish him!
I think for newcomers, button mashing will only get you so far. There's a real finesse to this uppercut combo system that just feels so rewarding to find your groove with.
Yeah, there really is nothing like a well-timed uppercut.
Okay, let's talk about the new characters. There's Cassie Cage, who shares her parents' abilities. She's quick and sassy. There's Takeda, son of Kenshi and apprentice of Scorpion. Much like Cassie, he's a hybrid of Kenshi and Scorpion's style, using chain-like whips with a bit of a Solid Snake vibe.
Aaron Black is one of the more interesting new characters. He's a human gunslinger mercenary. There's Kung Jing, cousin of Kung Lao. He uses a bow, which is also a staff with great range, and he's a hard character to get close to. The biggest standouts, though, are Devora and Farah and Tor. Devora is gross, a kind of bug hive queen creature with brutal stabbing attacks.
Farah and Tor make for an interesting choice as well. A big hulking mass and a tiny female warrior who work in tandem to wreck you. Tor uses Farah by throwing her at you, and when she's knocked down, Farah kind of disappears into the background to run back to Tor. It's just impressive to be fighting with two characters at once and have it feel so fluid. The backgrounds feel quite alive too, and you can interact with them by leaping off things or throwing objects at your enemies.
Do you like barrels?
Stop throwing fireballs at me!
My favourite object to throw, Hex, is the old woman.
Hey, Hex.
You just threw the old one. Oh, look at her, now she's dead.
Yeah, she's had a rough time.
Oh no, the poor old lady.
Well, don't stand next to two demigods fighting and you won't get thrown at one of them. It's common sense. Overall, this animation is so fluid though, isn't it? It's just a beautiful game to watch in motion. You don't feel cheated by any abilities because the way the game calculates hitboxes and hit timing is spot on. Characters are massive on screen and the cloth physics are excellent and the camera moves cinematically around the action. Characters also move like they should. Heavy hitters are slow, other characters that rely on close combat are more nimble.
I like how slow and meaty the bigger characters are, especially Goro, who is paid DLC. He's just this giant bag of muscles hulking through the battle.
I also really liked Kano's new outfit. I'm rubbish at playing as him though. And Reptile looks so reptilian now.
Almost in a kind of 50s sci-fi way. There's also DLC coming with Predator, Jason, Tremor, and Tanya. There are a lot of favorites who pop up in the campaign, such as Baraka, Sindel, and Rain. But it always makes me so sad, Bajo, when I see these characters pop up in the campaign and then I can't play as them.
Yeah, you know we're gonna have to pay for them later.
Now.
Overall, even more than the last game, MKX feels like a really tight tug-of-war, to-and-fro kind of fighter.
Yeah, absolutely. These tussles feel like a real struggle now. A battle as each character fights for space to do their moves, fighting to cover distances without getting hit. And you mostly notice this when you're playing someone at your skill level.
Oh, no! It's all over. No!
I had so many nights, Hex, just playing with one other person online, rematch after rematch into the wee hours of the morning.
I do think this is a less accessible Mortal Kombat, though. I mean, the tutorial is good, but I think newcomers will still struggle. Especially with all of those character variations to get your head around.
Absolutely. And there are some tough characters to learn, like Kotal Khan and his weird buff system, or Aaron Black's standoff ability, which is so delightfully Wild West. But is that a bad thing? I want to find reasons to sit down and really learn a character.
I think the challenge is that fighters aren't the most popular genre, so it's always hard to bring in newcomers. But then for those who do really like them, they demand a complicated game full of depth, so that's almost a barrier in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that fighters are repetitive in nature, and that doesn't help. But good campaigns seem to be bringing in new people. Certainly a lot of people played Injustice, their last game, because it had that great campaign.
All right, Barjo, it's time to talk X-rays and fatalities.
Yes, now we always struggle to show these in our current time slot. So one solution we have this time around is we're going to split the screen in half. So up the top, we're going to have the brutal fatalities, bones crunching, blood guts, all that sort of stuff. And down the bottom, we're going to have some nice, lovely animals for you to look at and to enjoy. So if you don't like seeing guts and bones, then just go like this.
And you'll still have something nice to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the rest of you, enjoy, I guess.
Kung Lao wins. Fatality.
Yes, Mortal Kombat doesn't walk a line when it comes to gore, it runs across it, gutting you along the way and dragging you with it by your intestines. It's a hallmark of the series, and these new fatalities range from disturbingly hilarious, such as Cassie's jaw-breaking selfie, to just plain disturbing, such as with Melina's, who eats faces, and there's one where she destroys your lower torso while your upper torso screams and pushes itself away.
Video games in 2015.
Oh my god.
Yeah, there's always a bit of a debate with this series as to whether these go too far or not, and I don't know, I think we've always felt that some of them are a little bit unnecessary. But at the same time, they're there to push those boundaries, much like satirical horror films like the Evil Dead series.
This one's weird. You're just like full of sand. Sandality.
A sandality.
I'm not really sure how much more we could say on the topic that we haven't said already. Mortal Kombat is not a game for kids, it's rated R18+, and you have to go into it knowing that it's going to try and make you wince.
But as far as modes go, there is more than enough online and offline to keep you busy. Online works quite well on the console versions we tested. Matches were mostly lag-free and plentiful, although working through the online menus was a little laggy, which might just be launch blues.
It's good you can actually get matches now, because their last two games, Injustice and MK9, had so many problems online, I ended up giving up on them pretty quickly, which is such a shame. It seems only the PC version is really suffering with MKX this time around, but patches are slowly helping. What are you giving it overall, Hex?
Well, I think the gore is always going to be divisive, but it's hard to fault MKX for its refined fighting mechanics. I think this is the best Mortal Kombat yet. I'm giving it 4 stars.
Yeah, I agree, I love it. I'm giving it 4.5.
Quan Chi needs to clean up his man cave.
It's cleaner than yours,
You're comparing me to Quan Chi?
only in terms of cleanliness.